mean, have we looked at it any other way? Oh, yeah. Oh, I understand.
I was waiting for the chief to show up. Now he's here, we get started.
No, you're fine. I'm teasing.
Tell him it's just 9 o'clock.
That's right. All right. We're going to go ahead and call to order and welcome everybody. Would like to state that all the commissioners are here for the regular scheduled Angelina County Commissioners Court meeting for Tuesday, March 12th, 2019. And if you would, please everybody rise, and we're honored to have the Reverend Cindy Duran with Kelty's Methodist Church to lead us in our prayer.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we begin today by thanking you for the city of Lufkin and its leaders for letting this city be what it is to so many. We pray for its safety. You continue to keep it safe. Our officers that are protecting us daily, we ask your protection upon them. We ask your guidance today in this meeting. We ask that you be with us in every decision that is made. Let us look to you for our wisdom. Keep this place safe. Keep the families safe that are represented in the people gathered here, that they can concentrate totally on the city and its work and its ministry to others, Lord. We just ask that you be with us and guide us. We look to you. We know your wisdom. We pray that that wisdom continues to keep the city what it needs to be for all of us to live in such a prosperous and wonderful place, Lord. Again, we give you thanks for each one gathered here, for Lufkin, Texas, for what it is to so many, and for the many ways you have blessed us in and through it. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. And if you would, please remain standing as Commissioner Cheshire leads us in the pledge to the American flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now the Texas flag, as Commissioner Harrison leads us in that pledge.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you. Be seated. Okay, item number 4, discussion, action on the rules of procedure, conduct, and decorum for meetings of the Angelina County Commissioners Court. Commissioner Cheshire.
Thank you, Judge. I appreciate this. This has been a very contentious issue politically, and when we discussed it the first time, the first part of the year, it was turned down, voted down, and I asked the court if I could proceed with trying to establish some rules and decorum and things like that, so we wouldn't, rules that we could follow and guidelines that we could follow, and offer the people an opportunity to speak, within the boundaries of the content of what's being discussed on the agenda, along with a public forum agenda item where the public has the right to speak about any subject that they want for a couple of minutes. All of us commissioners are available to most anyone who acts in a cordial manner to us. People who get out here and for whatever reason turn to social media and start blasting things that aren't true, because everything we read on Facebook is true, correct? But what I did was put a little thought and a lot of time into some rules and procedures. Most of the court, I believe, has had time to look over these procedures. It's quite lengthy. I've talked with Counselor Kirby. He has some concerns about a few different issues on the rules of procedure, which all need to be taken into consideration. And basically, if the court will bear with me, I'll just read what I've put together. And again, it's quite lengthy, so bear with me. Rules of procedure, conduct, decorum at a meeting of Angelina County Commissioners Court. All regular, emergency, and executive meetings, session meetings of Angelina County Commissioners Court will be called and conducted in accordance to the provisions of the Texas Open Meeting Act, Chapter 551 of the Government Code. Number 2, regular, special, and emergency meetings of Angelina County Commissioner Courts are open to the public and to the residents, representatives of the press and the media. Executive sessions of the Commissioners Court are not open to the public, only to those individuals expressly requested or ordered to be present or allowed to attend executive session. Angelina County Commissioner Court meets in regular sessions on the second and fourth Tuesday of each month at 10 a.m. in order for matters of issues of importance of the agenda items on the agenda of the regular meeting of the Commissioners Court. A request must be filed with it and approved by at least one of the Commissioner Court and our county judge by 12 noon on Tuesday preceding the regular meeting of the Commissioners Court. Business of Angelina Court is conducted by and between the members of the Angelina County Commissioners Court and by those members of the county staff, elected officials, department heads, constituents, experts, and or members of the public requested to be present to participate. While the public is invited to attend all meetings of the Commissioners Court except executive sessions, the public participation therein is limited to that of observation unless a member of the public is requested to address the Commissioners Court on a particular issue or issues, or lest the member or members of the public completes a public participation form and submits same to the county clerk 15 minutes prior to the beginning of the court to speak about an item or items addressed on the court. A sample of the Angelina County Commissioners Court public participation form is attached as Exhibit A. Anybody have any questions so far? I know this is a lengthy read and no questions so far. Each member of the public who appears before the Commissioners Court shall be limited to 2 minutes to make their his or her remarks.
It says 3 minutes.
It does. There's a typo on my copy that I'm reading, but the copy that the rest of the court has is 3 minutes. Yes. Time for each speaker shall be maintained by the court clerk, county clerk, and such designated representatives of the Commissioners Court may add more time by granting the member of the court a member of the court to speak if the need arises to discuss the matter more in depth. A maximum discussion of agenda items, regardless of the number of the members of the public wishing to address the Commissioners Court on such agenda items, shall be limited to 30 minutes. In the event more than, I know there's 10 members of the public who wish to speak on a particular agenda item, then only the first 5 speakers will be recognized. To the extent possible, the 5 members of the public recognized to speak shall be divided equally between the members of the public wishing to speak on the agenda items. And those members of the public wishing to speak against or for the agenda items. Essentially what I was trying to say, and I think Councilor Kirby may have had concerns with this, is, and we might need to amend this, is if we have 5 for, we should have 5 against, to make the time equal in the matter. In matters of exceptional interest, the court may, by a majority vote of the members of the court in attendance of the meeting, either shorten or lengthen the time allocated by the participants of the members of the public, or all members of the public, and or the amount of time allocated to all agenda items or specific agenda items. It is the intent of the court to provide an open access to the citizens of Angelina County to address the Commissioners Court so they can express themselves on issues of county government. Members of the public are reminded that Angelina County Commissioners Court is a constitutional court with both jurisdictional and legislative powers. And sometimes I think that is misunderstood by many of the people in the public. Created under Article 5, Section 1, and Section 18 of the Texas Constitution. As a constitutional court, the Angelina County Commissioner Court also has the power to issue a contempt of court citation under Section 81.024 of the Texas Legislative Code. Accordingly, members of the public in attendance at a regular, special, or emergency meeting of the court shall conduct themselves in a proper respect and decorum in speaking to and addressing the court, in participating in the public discussion before the court, and in all actions in the process of the court. Proper attire for men, women, and children is mandatory. Those members of the public who are in inappropriate attire and who do not conduct themselves in an orderly or appropriate manner will be ordered to leave the court. Refusal to abide by the court's order and continued disruption of a meeting may result in a contempt of court citation. Excuse me. It is not the intent of the Angelina County Commissioners Court to provide a public forum for the demeaning of any individual or group. Neither is it the intent of the court to allow a member or members of the public to insult the honesty and the integrity of the court as a body or as a member or members of the court, individually or collectively. Accordingly, profane, insulting, threatening language directed towards the court and or any person in the court's presence and or racial, ethnic, gender slurs, or epithets will not be tolerated. Violation of this decorum may result in the following sanctions: counseling the speaker's remaining time, removal from the commissioner's courtroom, a contempt citation, or as such civil and criminal sanctions may be authorized under the Constitution, statute, and the codes of the state of Texas. The county judge is the presiding officer of the Angelina County Commissioners Court and is a full participating member thereof. In the event of the absence of the county judge, a senior member of the Commissioners Court, in terms of total number of years as an elected representative, present at the regular, special, emergency meeting or executive session, shall serve as the judge pro tem. We have a judge pro tem who is designated by this court. However, wherein shall prevent a senior member from the Commissioner's Court from delegating that duty, another member of the court, another member of the Commissioner's Court he has the ability to delegate that duty to another member of the Commissioners Court. In other words, if the Judge Pro Tem is not present, the judge is not present, and we have a quorum of 3, another member of the court is able to conduct that business. The county judge or the designated Judge Pro Tem of the Commissioners Court, as a presiding officer of the Commissioners Court, is responsible for conducting all meetings and meetings of the public who have properly completed a public participation form and submitted the same to the county clerk, must write it in and be recognized before they are allowed, must wait to be recognized before they are allowed to address the court. Special rules for the press and media. And before I begin here, we have never had a problem with any of our media personnel, but I was advised by counsel that these rules needed to be added to the decorum. And again, I say there's never been a problem with any of our media. No media personnel or equipment, including lights, camera, and microphone, would be located on the Commissioners Court bench closer than 5 feet in front of the Commissioners Court bench unless permitted by court members. Members of the media, reporters and media technicians are required to structure their movement, equipment setup, takedown, adjustments, etc., in such a manner not to disrupt the Commissioners Court deliberating or the ability of the public to see, hear, and participate in the proceedings. You're fine. I promise.
She can move it back.
Again, there has never, 4 years, I don't think I've ever known of an issue, so you can relax. Yeah. Let me continue. Interviews shall not be conducted inside the Commissioners Court room during the time of the court is in session. Media interviews which are conducted outside the Commissioners Court should be conducted in such a manner as the interview not disrupt, impede, or disrupt the proceedings in regular sessions. Special, emergency, and executive meetings, session meetings of the court. The Sheriff of Angelina County shall be the bailiff of all regular court. Special and emergency meetings of the court, however, in such an event the sheriff is absent as a court bailiff, the sheriff shall notify in writing Commissioners Court within 72 hours in advance of his absence. I've had some counsel with different people, and I'd like to present before the court at this time that 72-hour number be changed to 12 because the sheriff's ability to be flexible and called away at a moment's notice, and I think 12 hours is sufficient enough for this court to be notified and make other arrangements. I don't know how the court feels about that, but we can talk about that in a bit. The court may appoint another commissioned peace officer to serve as bailiff as necessary. Whereas the court may also appoint another commissioned peace officer to serve as bailiff in the event that exists a conflict between the sheriff and any members of the sheriff's department and the Commissioners Court. The Commissioners Court may conduct town hall meetings and public hearings. The rules and procedures to conduct and decorum shall also apply to such town hall meetings and public hearings. However, the Commissioners Court may adopt such additional and supplemental rules for such meetings that may be necessary and appropriate to conduct such a meeting in an order, effect, and in a proper manner. I know there's been some discussion amongst court members and the public of having a town hall type public meeting, and that's one reason that I added this particular section to that. moving along. Time to open a Commissioners Court to the public to speak directly to the court shall be set aside during the court agenda identified as miscellaneous or routine items. Adding to the court agenda and introduction of distinguished guests and honored guests, distinguished and honored guests, and public forum. The public forum will be a time for the public to address the Commissioners Court on any topic of their choosing and allowed to speak for 3 minutes, and no more than 10 people may address the court during public forum in single court session. If a person addresses the court in 2 sessions in a row, during public forum, they must wait 2 regular sessions before they're allowed to redress the court. Rules of decorum remain the same as previously stated for regular agenda items. Rules of procedure, conduct, decorum, and at a meeting of Angelina County Commissioners Court shall be in effect immediately upon adoption by this court and shall remain in full force and effect until amended, repealed by the majority vote of the Commissioners Court. And some formal listings down here of names of the county, for the county judge and the commissioners and the court clerk, and the Commissioners Court date. Also attached on the very back is a public participation form. I'll read that out loud so people can kind of have an idea of what goes on with it. It states titled Angelina County Commissioners Court Public Participation Form. It says instructions: fill out the appropriate blanks. Please print and write legibly your name, your home address, cell phone number, place of employment, employment phone number. There's no legal statute saying that you have to give it, and nobody's forcing anybody to try to give up information that they want. This is just for our records so we can follow back up with whatever it is that a person has brought to our attention. That is the intent of providing information. Do you represent any particular group or organization? If you do, the group or organization, please state the name, address, telephone number of such group or the organization. Which agenda item or items do you wish to address? In general, are you for or against such agenda items, and then your signature, and add a note at the bottom of this public participation form must be presented to the court clerk 15 minutes prior to the beginning of court. Thank you for indulging me in that lengthy read. I don't necessarily know where the court stands with everything that I have presented. I believe I come up with something that is going to eliminate some of the theatrics that people tend to try to bring to this court. And I fall back on if an individual goes before one of our county court of law judges or one of our district court judges, how would you act? You should show that same respect to this court as you would that court. And it's basically it's kind of sad that we have to do this. In my 4 years of being on the Commissioners Court, I know 2 people who address the court in a regular basis. One individual would attack one individual or 2 individuals on the court. The other individual brought useful information to the court. and talked about things that were going on in the county and around. And, you know, both have a very valid constitutional right to speak. But once again, the reason for the decorum, I don't believe that an individual has a right to get up here and bash a member of this court for whatever reason. And that's the reason I drafted what I drafted the way I drafted. And we'll open the floor up for questions.
Commissioner Pitts?
The only thing I'd like to add is, regardless of how this vote turns out today, I still would like the public to know that I think 99.9% of the time, a simple phone call to your commissioner will take care of it, or the judge. If it's something that needs to be addressed by the court, I still think you can get put on the agenda and get it addressed. Most time, I think it's something that can be took care of without even coming before the court.
Commissioner Kennedy?
So, in order for us to adopt this, we have to agree on the public forum, which
We don't have to agree on, we can amend this any way we want to amend it. If you want to strike something on here, you know, we can, you know, if three of us agree to strike a particular item, we can strike it. If, you know, we want to add something to it, we can add something to it. It's whatever. This is not an all or nothing agenda item, and that's something I think has been misunderstood a lot of times about, you know, things that come to court. We would need to refer to counsel and get his legal opinion on how we need to draft a revisement. That would be something I would suggest, but as far as you know, a straight up and down vote on what is presented today doesn't. I mean, we can do that, or we can amend it.
cause I would like, if I had some issues with some people, I'm just talking precinct 2.
Yes, sir.
Then I would like to just do a one-on-one with that person instead
Yes,
of
sir.
having it to come before court.
Yes, sir.
And that's what I've been trying to do with the whole
Sure.
2 months or 3 months, you know.
Sure.
Just trying to.
And that is ideal. We would love to be able to do that, but there, you know, there are some people who don't like your answer, okay? And they don't like to be told that you can't do what they want done. And so they want to take their regress to public forum, or they want to take their regress to Commissioner's Court. And I totally understand that. But if they do that, in my opinion, they need to have, you know, good manners about themselves.
Okay, did you get your questions answered?
Yes.
Okay. Commissioner Henderson? Any
Let me just comment on this too. I mean, I'm total agreement with Commissioner Pitts and Commissioner Kennedy. We all have a cell phone and office phones, and I would hope that I would be smart enough to work a problem out with anybody that has one. If, you know, in this word transparency, you know, it means a lot. And if somebody has a problem, call me. I mean, I'll drive out, we'll sit down, talk about it. If you don't want to meet me in person, we'll talk about it on the phone. I got no problem with that. But it's just, you know, we've discussed this a few times in the past, and but some of us have been here long enough that we've seen some
Circuses.
pretty crazy stuff. And let me just say it that way. That's my word, the way I talk. But anyhow, and it's not fair to that commissioner or that judge or, to be battered like that. I mean, it's also embarrassing for the county to for people to sit and have to listen to that kind of stuff. And there's nothing that we can do. We can't talk back, to these folks, and so I'm just going to go ahead and put it out there. I'm not for this right now. I'm just not. So good, bad, or indifferent. That's just me. So I'll just put it out there that way.
Is that in the form of a motion?
Yes, sir, it is.
I second it.
Judge, do you have something to add?
I do. Yesterday, I was talking to Claude Welch. At the time, Claude Welch was the county judge of Angelina County. He actually implemented the public forum. That's been over 40 years ago. It has stayed on the agenda as far as the records indicate all that time until September the 8th, 2015, when this particular court took the public forum off.
That's not correct, Judge. It was not this particular court. There was only 2 members of this court that were on that court.
This is the court.
It is Angelina County Court, but it was a different court, member court. There are 3 new bodies on this court that were not here, not present when that agenda item was taken on.
Well, neither here nor there. September the 8th, 2015,
It
a
was
little
taken
over
off.
3 years ago, the public forum was taken off of the agenda after it'd been on for over 40 years. And this is the way I feel about it. I believe that everyone in Angelina County knows my feelings about toward the right of the people to have their voice heard and how much I want to reinstate the public forum. Commissioner Cheshire has written these over 3 pages of rules and regulations regarding the public forum. Some of these rules are common sense. I have no problem with a 3-minute time for an individual to address the court. Should they need more time, they can be put on the docket for the next meeting. I have no problem with the constituents who don't want to stop at 3 minutes and become belligerent, hostile, or cursing being removed from the meeting. I have no problem with the sheriff providing security for this court. However, there are too many restrictions on the citizens of Angelina County to have their voices heard by this commissioner's court. This court has no authority to tell the taxpayers wanting to address this court how to dress. Not everyone wants to wear business dress attire to court. If someone shows up in overalls and wants to ask a question or express concern, then he should be allowed to do so. I think the court needs to take a more common sense approach like convenience stores do. No shirt, no shoes, no service. As a point of interest, I've addressed this court myself multiple times over the last 12 years in walking shorts and a t-shirt, and I was never restricted. If a citizen addresses the court twice in a row, then he should be then they are restricted to waiting 2 regular meetings before they can address the court again. Limiting the voice of anyone is not what a public forum is all about. However, if they are excessive and redundant and bring up the same concerns that have already been before the court has addressed their concerns, then some sort of restriction should be applied as they are taking time away from other citizens to be heard. The biggest problem I have with the rules that have been presented is where a person who wishes to address this court must fill out a form and turn it into the county clerk 15 minutes before the meeting. This is an added burden for the taxpayers of Angelina County. Having their voice heard should be simple. They come to the court, and once we open the forum, they raise their hand, we point to them, they get up, state their name, where they reside, and continue with their questions, concern, or even complaints. Yes, they do have a right to complain to and about members of this court. We are public servants. We serve the public. I realize no one on the court wants to be criticized. However, taxpayers should have the right to bring a complaint before this court as long as they present it in a respectful manner. So because of the restrictions that have been put in this public forum application, placed on the citizens just to have the opportunity to address this court and have their voices heard, I will be voting against this proposal. The rules need to be rewritten with fewer restrictions.
Judge, on the public participation forum, by advice of counsel from TAC, Texas Association of Council, Jim Allison, he advised that the public participation forum be included, and that's advice from lead counsel for our association. Just so you're aware.
I understand.
And you,
But for over 40 years, we had this public forum and there was never an issue.
4 years ago,
Until
sir, we didn't have cell phones.
one individual got up and decided to attack a court member. And a little over 3 years ago, it was taken off the court. I objected to it taken off the court then as a non-member of the court, but as a member of the public, I still object to it not being on the court as a public forum. I think it can be very simple.
Judge, I was a member of that court, and I supported keeping the public forum on the agenda, okay? But also, I've, since that time, you know, I've sought legal counsel in reference to this public forum and rules of procedure, and I feel like they are sound, and I believe that your vote against it is an injustice as well. All right. Let's move forward with the vote.
All right, we have a motion on the floor. Who made the motion?
I did.
All right, do we have a second? All right, we have a second from Commissioner Pitts. Any more discussion?
I got something else. Now, we're voting on this, correct?
We're voting on that.
Yes. We didn't,
We didn't amend anything. We
this
didn't
is
do
not,
There's
this is
been no
not. we-
change.
Right. But I'm just saying, this is what we're voting on
We're
today.
voting on the application of this.
Right. Thank you very much.
You bet. Any other discussion?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, do we need to have an individual vote? All four members are against, or are for the not putting this on.
I'm for putting this on. You worded it wrong, sir.
Okay, well, I'm confused. All right,
Let's just do it this way.
I thought that your
I said
recommendation
Was
was
not to use
was
this.
not to use that.
It was.
And that was the application, is not to use that.
Right.
All right.
So he's voting against it.
Let me say something.
No,
again.
no, no.
No, let me just,
No.
here,
You gotta
here,
listen to the, all right.
here's the deal. I've always said, if we could come up with some kind of plan, I'm not totally against open forum. The problem is these different ideas that we're coming up with. I am against this. So that's where I was at today, so.
All right, so we have a motion on the floor not to accept this as
Right.
presented,
Right.
correct? And we have a second. All right. Commissioner one,
I'm against this.
but you're voting
I'm
for.
voting for not using this.
All right.
Yes.
That's an against vote.
Commissioner two. No, it's not.
Voting for.
All right. Four.
For the motion
Four.
that was made.
All right. Commissioner Cheshire, I'm assuming that you're voting against the motion as it's made.
I believe your rules of procedure incorrect, because if I vote for it, I'm voting for this.
I understand that. All right. So your vote is a no, is recorded. And my vote is a yes, and I am voting this down.
Counselor, can I get an opinion, please?
All right. Would you like to step forward? Get us out of this stall?
Judge, Commissioners,
All right.
I think the court, the vote of the court is on the motion that's presented, so.
Yes.
So, there's been a motion by Commissioner Harrison, maybe it would be helpful to restate it, that's up to the court, but the vote of the court is either in favor of the motion or against the motion.
Correct.
And so-
All right. Commissioner Harrison, just for clarification, will you restate your motion?
I make a motion that we do not use this
All right.
in our court.
As stated. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, that's a vote against.
All right. The motion passes not to use this.
Okay.
All right. Item number 5, appearance of Daniel Cummins, Goodwin, Laster, and Strong to discuss and request the approval of the final plat of the Barbie Subdivision Precinct 1 after it was reviewed by the Board of Adjustments. Good morning.
Good morning, good morning. As you said, the Board of Adjustments looked at the plat, reviewed the plat. We made the corrections that the Board of Adjustments had recommended. I believe the wording is, this lot shall not be used, well, this lot shall be used for elevated storage tank and its appurtenances or improvements, and no on-site sewer system will be allowed. I think those are the words that are on that plat. It's too small to read. The larger print is in your office, but that's what that says, and I believe we complied with all of the requests from the board.
Commissioner Harrison?
Yes, I was, of course, we brought it to court. We sent it over to get it reviewed. I'm with the pleasure of the review board. And, you know, I see no problem with this, as long as it's, you know, stated that's what it'll be used for.
Yes, sir.
And, so I have no problem with this at all.
I make a motion to approve.
We have a
Second.
motion on the floor and a
Second.
second. All in, any more discussion?
So we revised it to state that nothing would be on that lot except an elevated storage.
Right.
Correct. And the print that's too small.
Yeah.
In that particular lot, all that is worded out in that plat,
Okay.
okay? Any more questions? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes. All right, item 6. Appearance of Daniel Cummins, again, Goodwin, Laster, and Strong to discuss and request approval of the final plat of the Rustic Pine Subdivision, Section 1, Precinct 1.
Yes, sir. We had started this some while back, and we finished the subdivision. All the roads are built, the utilities are in place. I think that Commissioner Harrison has driven the roads, and he likes what he sees. We're ready for, the property corners are set, we're ready for the plat to be approved if it be the court's will.
Yes, sir.
Can I speak?
Sure.
All right,
Yeah.
I have went out to the subdivision. It's very, very well done. The guys, from your office.
Yes, sir.
They came out and brought me all the tests they done, and of course, it's a very lengthy, it's a pretty good book. And everything looks very good on this. So it's my recommendation that we go ahead and vote for the plat.
All right.
The final plat, I'm sorry.
So moved.
All right.
Thank you.
We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Number 7, appearance of Ben Bartlett of Bartlett, Baggett and Shands Insurance Company to discuss and request to the Commissioners Court approval for the renewal of the pollution liability insurance for Angelina County Waste Management Center.
Thank you,
Ben.
Judge and Commissioners. Amy, Janice, good to see you this morning. The pollution liability insurance policy for the Angelina County Waste Management Center is expiring March 15th of 2019. Before you is a proposal for renewal of that same coverage. Numerous markets were approached and proposals received. Some aggressively had competed for the business, but at the end of the day, our incumbent carrier, Ace Westchester, offered renewal terms consistent with the expiring terms that we approved 2 years ago. No change in premium, no change in coverage. We did 2 years ago. Previous to that, we were running on annual terms. The 2-year alternative had brought significant savings to the table. This year actually approached 3-year term, but that proved to not generate savings to the county's benefit. So the 2-year term, also including terrorism, which was approved to be added 2 years ago at this meeting, is what is recommended before the court today. I would sincerely appreciate any questions that you might have.
What is the terrorism coverage?
Yeah, the terrorism, after 9/11, the Terrorism Risk Insurance Act of 2002 was passed, which basically, prior to that, terroristic acts were excluded under all commercial insurance policies, okay? Whether it be property, general liability, auto, whatever, okay? At that point, it was mandated that terrorism be offered on all commercial insurance policies and give and ensure the election to either include or reject that coverage. Now, the coverage is actually backed by the government, okay? It's not 100% underwritten by the insurance company. It is, for all intents, predominantly underwritten by the United States government. But to qualify to trigger coverage for an act of terrorism, and it can be either domestic or international terrorism, it doesn't matter there. But the event must do more than $5 million in damage. Now, that's not necessarily at the site, okay, it's just arising out of it. I mean, the entire impact of that terroristic event must do more than $5 million in damage. But you know, quite frankly, and this is pollution liability, okay, and you've got to kind of keep that, okay, and apply, okay, terrorism to that, okay. It's not a building we're insuring. We're insuring liability that the county assumes by having a landfill out there and affecting groundwater and air quality and any other pollution incident that might arise out of the operation of the landfill. You know, I would be hard pressed, honestly, to give you an example of how a terroristic act could arise out of a pollution event at the landfill that would trigger a claim. But it's not impossible. It's not, you know, I mean,
It's not inconceivable.
no, it's not inconceivable. And, you know, it's certainly at the court's discretion to elect or reject that coverage, okay? And matter of fact, it adds, and I'm just doing quick math off the top of my head, but about $1,300 in premium over the 2-year period. That's basically, you say $750.
Right, about $650. Yeah.
But $650 a year, okay, for all intents. But that's, in a nutshell, what terrorism coverage is.
Thank you.
Yeah, 2 years ago, the court, I remember the discussion 2 years ago, they decided to go ahead and add the terrorism coverage because of the just small difference in the premium
Right.
over the whole, to go ahead and have it added, and I think it's probably still a good idea. Any other questions?
Motion to approve.
All right, and a second. We have a motion and a second on the floor.
That's
No.
to stay with the existing company.
Yes, to go ahead and approve this as it's in front of you. The green part is a highlighted 2-year, and go ahead and go back, that's the best savings is the 2-year premium.
Judge, is this something you need to sign?
I'm sorry. what-
Is this something the judge needs to sign?
No, actually, no.
Okay, good enough.
It's not.
I was gonna amend my, that's good.
All right. We do have a motion and a second on the floor, and no further discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. All right, thanks, man.
Thank you to the court.
All right, number 8, appearance of Don Glover to address interactions with Precinct 4 Commissioner Bobby Cheshire in regards to Shady Acres Lane. Morning, Don.
Good morning. The first thing I want to say is I'm here only to represent myself this morning and nobody else, and I took the morning off work to do it. So that you know what we're talking about, I'm going to ask Judge Linberry to pass out these 2 maps. The gray one, where the X is where the property in question lies. What I'm asking of the court this morning is that the court and the county attorney might use whatever influence they have to convince Precinct 4 Commissioner Cheshire to remedy what has deteriorated into a bad situation. I have a 16-acre tract of land near Lake Sam Rayburn. On that map you're getting, you can easily see where it is. On one of those, my tract is outlined in yellow, and a tract behind me that becomes important later is outlined in red. It lies between Shady Acres and 147. Structures and improvements on my land include a 2-bedroom, 1.5-bath house, a barn, tool shed, deep well, and fencing. The place is near Castles Boykin Park and surrounded by several thousand acres of U.S. Army Corps of Engineers property. Heavily wooded and secluded, it's an ideal vacation property, and I plan to remodel the existing house. I'm actually about 3/4 finished with remodeling that house, and build 2 additional cabins to rent to fishermen and their families during tournaments. Due to actions taken by the Precinct 4 Commissioner, I cannot use the place the way I planned, and I cannot sell it. The road in front is County Road 354, also known as Shady Acres Road. It was passable in 2015 when I acquired the place. Even after water associated with Hurricane Harvey receded, I could still access my driveway from 354. Unfortunately, while the road was still wet from the rain associated with Harvey, the Corps did some logging, damaging the road and calling for repairs that were never done. There's a creek nearby, just west of my house, that tends to rise out of its banks and go over the road, as it did recently when Sam Rayburn was up. Partly because a large concrete culvert there has been clogged with debris since Harvey. Close to 2 years ago, it might not have been quite that long, but it was close, I contacted the Precinct 4 Commissioner and asked him to repair the road. The first few times we spoke, he was cordial, saying he'd get down there and look at it when he could. Time rocked on, and when the road became nearly impassable, I pressed him harder, and he replied, "You did not help me when I asked, so why should I help you now? You don't vote in my precinct, and yours is the only house on that part of the road. I am not going to repair the road." 4 or 5 years prior to this, not too long after the commissioner was elected, he came to the office where I work and asked me to provide assistance in securing state funds for a project in his precinct he had in mind, and I was not able to accommodate his request, and he was not happy about that. So he is now retaliating against me for that. Shortly after that conversation, he or his road hand pushed up a pile of rocky debris not too far from my driveway, and I certainly couldn't access it after that. I don't believe retaliation in this way is lawful, And also, according to Subchapter B of the Texas Transportation Code, entitled General Authority of Commissioners Court, a unanimous vote of the Commissioners Court is required to close, abandon, or vacate a public road or shorten it from end to end. Gentlemen, please understand, my house and driveway face this road. My mailbox is in front of my house on this road. If there is an emergency and law enforcement, an ambulance, or firefighters are needed at that address, responders cannot access or even locate the house. I can't receive mail there. The appraised value of the property is significantly diminished if access to the front is permanently eliminated. Presently, in order to access my own property, I'm forced to use an old logging easement and cross a 17-acre tract of land off 147 that doesn't even belong to me. Can't access the front at all. The commissioner is aware of this and at one point commented, I guess you'll just have to buy that property because I'm not fixing that road. Several times the commissioner told me I could use the other end of Shady Acres, the end nearest the Airstream Park, and that's on your map, to access my driveway. I have a photo. On the day that he called me to tell me that his road hand had just gone in from that way and been able to get to my driveway, that's what it looked like. And if you'll look at that photo, you can see exactly what I saw when I went down there that day to see for myself. You can't. Even with my four-wheel drive pickup, I couldn't get in from that direction, and I still can't. And in fact, if his road hand did go down there, you can see on that picture where somebody, it looks like probably that morning, had been stuck and pulled out. So that's not an option. Late last year, my conversations with the Precinct 4 Commissioner grew increasingly heated. He began to sound hostile and irrational, and I was concerned. During my last phone conversation with him, it went south, and I told him I didn't want to discuss it anymore. His reply was, conversations end when I say they end. I know where your office is. I felt uncomfortable and asked law enforcement to send him a criminal trespass warning to keep him from the building where I work. He'd previously made comments I felt might indicate he's not rational that contributed to my concerns. At one point, he said he'd called the owner of the property behind me, the one that I have the easement through, the only way that I have to get to my property, and that he could get him to shut off that access so I'd be completely shut out of my property. On another occasion, he did not do that, by the way. I spoke to the gentleman and he had not heard from him. On another occasion, he said, I'll condemn the land behind you and make the logging easement a county road so you can have a mailbox on Highway 147. On another occasion, he said, I'll make the Corps dredge the lake up to your property line and you'll have lakefront property. I laughed and told him he lacks the authority to do these things, and that seemed to infuriate him, and his response was, then I'll have your land condemned and we won't have an issue. Having his authority questioned upset him badly. I must be able to access my driveway via County Road 354. Guests must be able to locate the place using GPS, and without access from 354, they can't. If the road isn't repaired, I can't develop and market the property as I planned, and if I decide to sell it, it will not appraise for what it did when it had front access, which represents a real big loss to me, and I can't afford that. As it stands, I am totally dependent on an easement through land I do not own and cannot afford to buy. And if that easement falls into disrepair, I have a whole new set of problems. I don't think any of you would want to be placed in that situation. I understand that it's difficult for a county commissioner to spend a bunch of money on a short stretch of road that serves only one house. And incidentally, it actually doesn't. It also serves the mobile home park. And contrary to what the commissioner told me before, they do want it fixed. They don't like that it's blocked because what's happening is folks GPS the Airstream Park, they head down my road and they hit that roadblock and they get stuck. It's meant to be a through street. The road was passable when I acquired the place, and I had every right to expect it would remain passable. I I certainly didn't expect a county commissioner to decline to repair the road in retaliation, which is an abuse of power and possibly an unlawful act. The purchase and development of this property represents a large investment to me, and if access to the front is permanently eliminated, the property value will diminish. I respectfully ask this court and the county attorney to exert any influence you have over the commissioner in an effort to convince him to repair the road. I believe his actions are ill-advised and put the county at risk. Thank you for your time and attention to this matter.
Thank you, Ms. Glover. The court is dismayed. Commissioner Cheshire?
Judge, you just turned this court into Jerry Springer show. And I too am appalled. I'd like to present some pictures to the court. This is the road that she's talking about. It's been completely underwater 2 different times in the past 4 years. This picture right here shows a 911 address off of 147. That 911 address is 4219 State Highway 147. And that's a 911 address she's speaking of. She has posted a mailbox on Sun 0147 with the number 900 with her name on it, which is an illegal 911 posting. And this is a most recent picture I have of the front entrance she's talking about, which I drive down pretty frequently. Essentially, the policy for Precinct 4 is not going to change. We do not intend to spend taxpayer money on a road that is not serviceable. It's not going to remain serviceable. Our funds are very limited. She has access from 2 different points of access, from State Highway 147 and from Airstream Harborside as well. And
My 911 address is not the one that he just said. On the closing documents on the property, when I purchased it, it's 900 Shady Acres Road. I do not own the property on 147. If there's an address there, it is not mine.
actually,
Those pictures were taken Saturday or Sunday that you have in your hands.
Actually, the 911 address on your property off of Shady Acres is 742.
And the mailbox was erected to replace the one that mysteriously was knocked down and run over after the conversation with the commissioner about me not being able to receive mail at that address. There was always a mailbox there. In fact, I received some utility bills at that address that were returned undeliverable.
Is the postmaster still here? Did he leave? He left. I spoke with the postmaster from Zavala, and they have not, do not, and will not service a mailbox on Old 147. And Ms. Glover has attempted to fill out mailing address, and she did not have proper documentation to.
I have not attempted to fill out anything with the post office, ever.
I'm not here to argue that. Policy in Precinct 4 is not going to change. We're not going to spend taxpayer money on a road that serves no purpose. I would like to express to the court that in the picture where you see the road underwater is the road that she wants us to appear. I believe the judge has actually flown over the road and looked at it, if that's correct.
Yeah. when the lake was still up.
Okay.
There is a large concrete, well, there's a creek just to the west of my property. And in fact, it's just nearly on the property line.
I still,
Culvert is
That-
clogged.
That culvert is, Mr. Caton, would you say probably from her mailbox 2/10 of a mile south of her mailbox? Close to 2/10 of a mile south?
as far as the determination of not repairing the road, I still maintain that the court hasn't made that decision yet, and it needs to be a court decision and not one commissioner. And until the water goes down completely to where we can actually get out there and look at the situation as it existed, not taking one person's word for it or another person's word for it, we need to, I am getting hoarse. There's been way too much talking today. But anyway, we need to wait until the situation where the water goes down and we can actually go down there as a court and look at this and make some decisions as to what's gonna happen on this road.
Judge, I didn't put this on the agenda, and the first words out of your mouth when this came out was you were appalled. Okay, if you want to await, then why did you insist on having this court look at this matter at this point in time?
The same feelings that I have, Commissioner Cheshire, toward a public forum, I feel the same way toward any individual that wants to come and address this court. If an individual has a problem with a commissioner or with myself, I believe that any individual has the right to address the entire court and not one individual. I think it's fair. That's the way I feel about it. We
Anything
will address this down the road.
Thank you. Thank y'all for hearing me this morning.
Can I say something? And I'm not sure about this. We might need to seek some legal advice, but I'm not sure that that's a court decision.
It's not a court decision, and it's not a judge's decision either.
I mean, like I say, we might want to seek some legal advice on that, but, you know, as an elected official, the people of Precinct 4 elected Bobby to make those decisions down there, and I'm not sure, Carrie, you might correct me if I'm wrong, if we can make decisions for him. Yeah, I'm gonna throw you in it.
How do you turn it?
Judge, commissioners. What I guess to address your question, Commissioner, the law says that if you have a public road that's been accepted into the county road system, that to cease maintenance on the road, it does require permanent cessation of maintenance. It's called discontinuance, requires action of the court. Commissioner certainly has authority to temporarily discontinue maintenance or even close portions of a road for safety concerns. That's allowed in the statutes, but if it is a public road that's been accepted into the county road system, then it does require court action to permanently stop maintenance. There's few guidelines on actually what type of maintenance and frequency, the standards for maintenance in the statutes, but there is a duty of the court for public roads that have been accepted into the county road system to provide maintenance, and it does require court action to stop that completely, to discontinue maintenance of the road on a permanent basis. There are public roads recognized in the system that are not accepted into the county road system, and there's been a recent AG opinion that came out on that does recognize that those roads, even though the public may have a right to use them, are not part of the county road system, and the county is not under a specific obligation to maintain those roads. There's a distinction between the two types of public roads. So I'm not sure if that answers your question here.
Is there a variance between quit maintaining it and closing it? I know if you close a road,
There-
it has to be a court.
There
is
are
correct.
two separate procedures. A road can be closed by the Commissioner's Court and completely shut down and closed. And you can also decide to discontinue a road, which means to stop maintaining it. But that's not exactly the same as closing the road and shutting it down.
And I, for the record, I haven't requested to close the road. If you can show the picture down there that Mr. Harris has, the road at that point, particular time, is 7 feet underwater. And we don't, Precinct 4 does not intend to spend tax dollars to raise that road up to a level of where it is in Ms. Glover's opinion, passable and accessible, when she has 2 alternate routes that are available to her from Airstream Harbor and State Highway 147. I just believe that would be a foolish waste of taxpayers' dollars, and I believe the people of Precinct 4 would appreciate that. Is my opinion, and that's my opinion, and that's where we're gonna stand.
Commissioner Pitts, does that answer your question? Do you understand now that it does take the court
Yes, sir.
to close a road and not an individual commissioner?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
And Commissioner and Judge, just kind of to make it clear, especially from my standpoint, I'm trying to assist with the court's understanding of the law in this area, but I'm not prepared today or think it'd be appropriate for me to render a legal decision to the court on this specific road and the specific actions that have gone on or what might be required. I can certainly attempt to do that if the court wishes me to, but.
No, thank you, Counselor. I think we can handle it from here on out.
To be clear, Judge, I haven't requested to close the road.
Understood.
Okay.
Understood. All right. All right, no action taken. All right, number 9, discussion action on a request for the Sheriff's Office to apply for a domestic marijuana eradication grant for fiscal year 2019 and to approve for financial management of the DME flight operations. Put the helicopters back in the air.
Morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for me in this order. This is the same grant we've had it since I think about 6 years now. Nothing has really changed. It's domesticated marijuana eradication. It's a grant through the DEA. It's 100% grant. It's for flight operations and for ground crews. The flight operations actually cover several counties, but money is allocated through our county. And then our individual department receives funds for equipment and supplies, and we provide manpower if there's any assistance needed, like eradicating fields or any intelligence stuff like that. And it's really kind of depends on how much activity, how much we actually do. But we try to keep this limited, our physical manpower part, to Angelina County. Now, we're going to assist any agency that asks for help, as we can. But we kind of have an agreement with them that our main concern is Angelina County, and then we'll assist. Of course, when we fly, we'll fly several counties, but and there's other counties involved in this, and they likewise will, if we needed help, they send help down here if there's a big field found or something like that. But as far as the monies go, I think it's a $450,000 grant. About $400,000 of that goes for the fuels and distributed through Ms. Cordray. Actually has to do all the work on that. So where we pay for the fuel, and the rest of it is for equipment and supplies and materials.
Captain Linderman, are y'all still, is the Sheriff's Department still supplying a member to fly with them?
Yes. They're called, their actual official job description is a spotter. But yes, we provide certified spotters to ride in the helicopters. When they're coming out of Angelina, most of the other counties have spotters too, so we matter of fact, I don't think we've ever had to send someone else to another county to do the spotting, but when they're in Angelina County, now, and I'm especially gonna say the dates, but there is a time when they may have as many as 6 helicopters here during a week, and we help provide spotters. Us, the Forest Service, and Lufkin PD, there's several people involved that we do.
You bet. Any other questions?
I got motion to approve.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Captain. All right, number 10, discussion action on approval to acknowledge an annual contract increase for the 2019 renewal period with Southern Health Partners for professional medical services to the inmates of Angelina County Jail. Warden. Good morning.
Good morning, how are you guys?
Doing fine.
Good. What this form is, it actually is just a formality to the contract we already have in place. We've already budgeted for these funds. This is just a paper that requires the county judge's signature to show that we are in agreement with that increase, but that is built into our contract already.
What is it, how big increase we're looking at?
It was like 1.29%,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
In
and-
dollars?
I'm sorry.
In dollars?
Oh, I don't know what it is
Yeah.
in dollars.
It had to do with an increase in the
In our
inmates
population,
in the
yes.
population over
Yeah.
the original 252.
In our original contract, it was 252 inmates, and then, as we went on in the years, you know, our population increased a significant amount, so, with that increase, it also come an increase.
Right.
And like I said, we've already budgeted for it, it's already built into the budget for this year.
All right.
Motion to approve. Oh, I'm sorry.
I second it.
Oh, okay.
All right, a
I thought
motion
you
and
were
a
say
second.
something.
All
I-
right, thank you.
Oh, okay.
All right. With the judge to sign.
Oh, is it,
With the
okay.
judge to sign.
Motion to
yes.
approve with the judge's signature.
All right. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. All right. Number 11, discussion action on submittal of our letter of interest for the pavement and fence improvement project to be added to the TxDOT Aviation Capital Improvement Program for Angelina County Airport in the amount of $2,133,238.25.
Grant from the state? Is that what this is?
Do what?
This is a grant from the state?
Yes.
Oh,
It's gonna be a partial grant that when we go to the aviation conference, the airport manager was unable to be here this morning. He is having some severe medical problems that just cropped up, so he was not able to come this morning. But this particular application is something, this letter of interest, what we end up doing is sending a letter of interest to TxDOT Aviation. Then they look at the application to see if it's something that they're going to support. And at that point, then they say whether or not they're gonna support all or part of a project and what the grant will be. But until we send the letter of interest, we get no interest from them at all. So, we really need the court's indulgence on submitting this letter of interest so we can, submit it to TxDOT Aviation at the aviation conference that's coming up next month.
motion approved.
Second.
You need to sign it?
Yes.
Motion approved with judge's signature.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. All right. Where's Tom Selman? He didn't make it. Okay. Number 12, discussion action on the submittal by Tom Selman, Constable Precinct 1, on his 2019 racial profiling report as required by law. Captain, can you talk to that, or do we need to table it?
I know nothing about
All right.
I think we can approve it without him being here. All it is just him submitting the report. We
It's-
can approve it.
It is the same report that is submitted every year, and it has to do with whether or not there has been any or not, which there has not been. And
I make a motion to approve the report.
All right, we have a motion to approve.
Second.
All right, and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. All right. Number 13, discussion, action on an interlocal agreement between Angelina County by and through Terry Pitts, Commissioner, Precinct 3, and the City of Huntington. Commissioner?
Judge, this is just a interlocal agreement between Angelina County, Precinct 3, and Huntington. I think Commissioner Cheshire and Commissioner Harrison has those with their respective cities. It's not us taking over their streets and roads and parks. It's just that on certain projects, we can help them with. It's solely at my discretion to whether I furnish equipment or labor to those guys. Commissioner Loggins, previous Commissioner Loggins had that agreement. We let it die, and I'm just asking to reinstate it.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. All right. Number 14, appearance of Ricky Connor, Angelina County Emergency Management Coordinator, on discussion action on adoption of Angelina County Multi-Jurisdictional 2019 Hazard Mitigation Plan. Good morning.
Good morning. This has been a long 18-month process of getting this updated. It has to be updated every 5 years. So partnered with MPTX Associates, we've got the plan ready. It was approved by Texas Division of Emergency Management. Then it was approved by FEMA. What I'm here today is to get a resolution signed where we approve the plan.
Motion approved with judge's signature.
Yes, thank you. All right, we have a motion and a second, and we have looked over this,
Yeah.
and we do have the proclamation in place.
A good job, Rick.
All right, yeah, thank you.
If
It was a
anybody
good job.
needs to look at it, you're welcome.
Right.
It's about 300 pages long.
It is. It is. I have looked at it, and it is every bit of 300 pages. All right, any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. All right. Discussion action on resolution of the Angelina County Commissioners Court in support of the establishment of a foreign trade zone under the alternative site framework. Gentlemen, this is something that the city, DETCOG, and the surrounding area, several other commissioners' courts have already done this. And it is an effort, this particular alternative site framework, the paperwork, once we signed that the Angelina County Commissioners Court is on board with the establishment of this foreign trade zone. It is gonna go into a packet into Washington, D.C. to get people's attention in Washington that we are interested in having additional jobs and facilities here that would encourage foreign trade coming into our area. It has been approached in the past, and it did not pass Washington's overview. This time we're going in with everybody in the area on board, and we just need to get y'all's submission. Is there any questions as to exactly what this is all about?
Motion to approve, authorizing the judge to sign.
Everybody sign.
Oh, I guess we all got to sign.
Second.
Motion to approve. Yeah. Any
Got a
other
second already?
discussions?
I'm good.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. All right, thank you, guys. All right, number 16, discussion action for permission to re-advertise for bid proposals for the lease on the farmer's market. All right, Commissioner Pitts.
Judge, the committee on that just felt like we didn't advertise adequately as we should. We only received 2 bids, and we just wanted to make sure everybody that was interested in that had the opportunity to do it. So we want to rebid it, put it on our website, newspapers, get the word out there to try to get that, farmer's market, released again.
All right. All right, any other questions?
I'll make that in form of a motion to.
All right,
Second.
all right, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Number 17, discussion action on budget transfer from Road and Bridge number 1. Transfer from hardtop roads, 10 grand, to culverts, 10 grand. Commissioner?
Let me just say this, I know y'all done it, but let me just say this right quick. This is the year of culverts. I've had, 5 or 6 just here lately that's trying to swallow themselves. I mean, I guess it's like a 10-year span. These things last about 10 years and oops, they go rusting out, we gotta replace them. Well, I guess this is the 10th year deal here, because I've had a bunch of them show up and us have to get them replaced. We didn't have enough money in our budget because we rocked along every year doing a few culverts and everything's fine. All of a sudden, bam, I got some that's $8, $9, $10,000 a piece because they're big, long culverts. I'm talking about 8-foot, 50-foot long culvert. So anyhow, that's why I'm trying to move money again back in the culverts to try to take care of my budget. So that's my spiel. Go ahead.
All right, we have a motion on the floor.
Make a motion to approve.
All right, we have a second.
Second.
All right, okay.
We already had one.
I thought you did. Yeah.
Any other questions? Okay. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. All right, number 18, consider any miscellaneous routine items. I saw none. Did I miss any?
Yeah, I thought I did. Rodney Cheshire.
Yeah, you got Rodney Cheshire.
Okay, I missed it. Okay.
Report and
All right.
make a motion to approve those
All
reports.
right. We have a motion. How about a second?
Second.
Second. All right. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Number 19, consider approval and authorization for payment of the bills as submitted by the county auditor. Y'all have reviewed the bills.
Yes, we have.
I got a item
All right.
on here. I don't know how, it's closer to the end. It's precinct 3's outside. What it is a light bill. I won't pay Terry's light bill for $11.73.
Come on, man.
Well, I'm sure it's just a clerical error, but I'm fairly certain that the auditor can get it straightened out for us.
How much?
It's
$11.73.
He won't, he wouldn't do it for me. So
Oh, wait a minute, which one
It's
is?
on page 12.
Yeah.
On page 12.
yeah,
That's here.
Oh, it's on Bobby's?
Yeah,
Yes,
down
sir.
the bottom.
Oh, okay. Okay.
We don't want
So we're gonna amend with this one?
we don't want
We'll
$12
take,
error.
I mean, it'll be paid.
Oh, I know,
so,
but
yeah.
I'm just saying, we'll just go ahead and
Yeah,
make a motion, we pay the bills with that,
yeah, with me
that
correct.
adjustment.
With
with the adjustment of the.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
All right. We
Other
have
than
a-
that, I'm good.
All right.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second. We have 2 seconds. That ought to make 4 of them. All right, we have a motion and a second on the floor. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes to pay the bills. Motion on number 20, recess or adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
All right,
Second.
second. All in favor? Aye. Thank you, gentlemen and ladies.